Get connected with Take Two Radio Music on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio Music, or for email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit take2radiomusic.com.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Take Two Radio Music. I'm Pam, your host. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. It's beautiful and sunny in Chicago, but oh my God, is it cold. And it would be worse, though, if there was no sun. So as long as the sun's out, I'm happy. So anyways, on with our show today, we have with us an award-winning country artist, and his name is Doug-briney, and I don't know if it's Briney or Briney, so Doug, would you please tell me?
Absolutely, and you had it right the first time. It is Briney.
Briney, wonderful. Thank you so much.
No problem, Sam. No problem at all.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just been running like a chicken with his head cut off, taking care of meetings and all sorts of fun stuff, doing some songwriting this morning and playing and just staying busy.
You know, I don't know anybody these days that doesn't run around with their head almost cut off, or chicken with their head cut off, because you have so much to do. I don't know why it seems busier now. I would think that when my children grown that it would be less busy, but it's not. What's going on here?
I don't know. And we live in an age with technology that's supposed to make things easier and faster, and the easier and faster it gets, the more frantic it becomes. Exactly.
And I think that the majority of our day is taken up by that technology, because we're always checking our iPhones and our tablets and whatever you're on. You're always on it looking, okay, did I get a tweet? Did I have this? Do I have to do that? Do I have to do this?
Exactly.
I got to answer that one. You know what? And we barely use the phone, the landlines these days. So I kind of miss those days.
I don't even have a landline at our house. We haven't had a landline in our home for the past 6, almost 7 years.
Really? And
we got rid of the landline. It just, it was a cost of my kids. The kids, we had one cell phone that the kids shared. My wife has a cell phone. I've got a cell phone. There was no need to have another landline. There just really wasn't.
Right.
We were living in Alaska. If the cell phones went out, the landlines weren't working anyway either. And our landline was not a normal landline. Where we ran into emergencies was usually when the power went out. And the phones that we had all required power. All required power. So the cell phones were actually the better way to communicate. So we got away from the landline about 6-7 years ago and haven't looked back.
Well, I wish, like somebody like yourself and a few other people that I've spoken with that have gotten rid of their landlines would talk to my husband, because he just won't give up on it. I mean, he's constantly on his cell phone. But and so you would think he would understand that we don't need the landline, but stubborn is as stubborn does. So.
Well, we just started looking at the cost to have it, and it was like, we're not using it. It seemed like the only people that were ever calling the landline was salespeople or telemarketers, and
exactly.
And I was like, and I get irritated when they call me on a cell phone. Boy, I don't enjoy that at all. But hey, everybody has their own little thing. I've got some friends here that she is terrible. She does not use her cell phone at all. Her husband has had it for a long time, and she just does not use it. And her husband is threatening her. He's we're just going to get rid of the. We're getting rid of the landline, and then you're going to have to use it, and you're going to have to learn how to charge it up, other than whenever you want to call me. She only uses it to call him and then turns it off all the time. So we've talked about that quite a bit, too, because it's just kind of funny. That's the way my wife was. She would never turn her phone on unless she wanted to call me. Well, I could never get a hold of her.
Right,
What took place, I bought her an iPhone, and when I bought her the iPhone, instead of just a flip phone, that made all the difference in the world to her. It all of a sudden she was she actually does a really good job carrying her phone now and keeping up with it. So it's really been a good thing.
Wow. Yeah, and plus she had no choice, like you said, because you shut off the other phone. So.
Yeah, but she hasn't had the iPhone near that long. It was just. But we got the iPhone for her, and she started carrying it because it was fun. She could play her game on it. She was able to text our children who are grown and not living at home, so she was able to text them. And just, she's starting to use it a little bit more and more, and she really enjoys it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So,
Then
anyway.
Shortly she'll be addicted. So,
yeah.
Well, let's start out like I always do and have you give us a little background on how and when you became interested in being in the music world.
Oh man. Well, I guess I'm 49 years old. I sang my first solo in church when I was 2 years old. So
wow.
I've been involved with music for a long, long time. A very long time. I sang youth choirs and that type of thing, and did band and through high school. Was a music major in college. I led church music in churches for the past 26 years. And I guess it was about 10 years ago that I started competing in a local competition up in Alaska for K-Bear Country Idol, and started competing out, singing country music out in different locations, and had a great time with that. My dog is getting into something here. I'm not sure what he's in. I'm sorry if you hear that.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right. I have two dogs, and every once in a while one will start barking when I'm on the phone doing an interview, and it's like, oh, shh.
Yeah, it's like, he knows whenever I'm on the phone, and that's
yes, exactly.
He's been
You're
with me
ignoring
all day
him.
long and hasn't barked. And the minute I get on the phone, then he starts doing that. So
that's just
anyway,
it. They
but
tell
that's how I got involved. It was through the K-Bear Country Idol. I started singing country music outside of church, and in different locations where K-Bear was having country music nights. They started using me in their country nights to promote country music throughout the area and the radio station. So that's how I got involved.
Yeah, but from the age of 2, I think you're the only one I've spoken with so far, and I've done a lot of interviews that started so young. I mean, for a solo at 2.
Yeah, and my dad has the old reel-to-reel tape of that. He has an old reel-to-reel tape of me singing my first solo in church, and I tell people it's kind of funny to listen to it because I sound like like Froggy from the Little Rascals. I had this little deep voice, it was but it's kind of funny, but. It's fun to go back and listen. When I get out to California and spend time with my dad, I'm able to listen. Get to listen to that. One of these days, I need to get that recorded from his reel-to-reel onto digital so that I can actually have it.
Yeah, and those things don't last forever either. So you better change it over as soon as you can. Yeah,
it's been around for a while now, but it's. The hard part is the tape seems to be doing pretty good. It's the player that's getting, and you can't find those players very easily anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Well, who were your musical inspirations growing up, and have they changed today?
The biggest influences growing up that I can remember, my first album I ever bought was Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. I bought that album.
Yeah.
First concert I ever went to was Larry Gatlin, the Gatlin Brothers. Lee Greenwood, Alabama. Those were some of the biggest influences and people that I just really listened to a lot growing up and absolutely loved it. And I still love listening to all of their music even today. I do. I still love listening to them. Some more influences have been added in through the years. Vince Gill, Trace Atkins, Toby Keith, Ronnie Dunn. Clint Black is another favorite of mine. That influences some things, and so a lot of influences. But the reality is, every time I listen to something, I'm influenced because music is growing, and it's always, you're evolving as a person, as an artist, and music is changing, and it changes because of what I'm hearing and what's going on around me and influences that are there. And it's interesting. I stay true to who I am, but it's still Kenny Rogers is a great example. You can listen to him even today, and you can still tell it's Kenny Rogers. He hasn't changed who he is, but yet his styling has changed a little bit, and you can hear some different influences of more modern music in it, and yet he can still sing those classics, The Gambler, Lucille, and those types of things, and it still sounds very much him.
Yeah, I just absolutely love him. It's funny, when I was growing up, I was, of course, into rock music and pop music and all that, and that was basically the only music that I listened to. And my mom used to listen to country music, which would be Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton and all of them. And I was, it was okay to me, but it wasn't something that I would tune into, when I put my radio on or whatever. And later on in life, I grew to appreciate that music, and I absolutely love every artist that you mentioned. And sometimes I think it takes growing up to learn to appreciate the different genres of music. And these days, there's not really specific genres anymore, if you think about it, because country music crosses over to pop music, and rock will cross over to country music, and it's just it's a combination now. So I think that's how the music has changed the most.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing that I get asked a lot, what makes country music so special? And see, I'm kind of the opposite of you. My brain is, I have a little ADD, so my brain is going 15 different directions while we're talking, and wanting to get everything out at the same time. You're talking, the influences and see, I'm the opposite. My influences always growing up. My dad listened to country music, and that's what I gravitated towards. But yet my mom listened to all the pop music of the day. So I can still sing every Beach Boys song I think ever written. A lot of Chicago, and that was the music that she enjoyed listening to. So it's just kind of interesting, those influences and what's there. And you're talking about the music blending, and what makes country music different is the stories that it tells. To me, country music tells a story where a lot of other music doesn't necessarily tell a story. It's got a concept, and then they repeat, and it doesn't really tell a full story. And I think we're getting, to some degree, we've been getting away from that in country music, and I think that's to the detriment. And I think what's happening, my personal take is, we're seeing now we've kind of gone through this period of bro country, or whatever you want to call it, and we're coming back to, I think the pendulum has swung far enough one way that it's starting to swing back again. And you're starting some of these songs that are coming out now again, telling more of a story. Again, at least I hope so. I like to hear those stories, because to me that's what makes country music different. That's what makes it. That's the heart, to me, of country music, are the stories that it tells. And I'm hoping
I completely agree
back.
with that.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. The benefit of it, of the way it is now, is that it brings more fans to the music, because where my daughter, I used to bring her to country music concerts, and when she was younger, and she didn't really go for it either at that time. She was like me when I was younger, but now that she's older, she's 24 now, she loves country music. But I think that part of that is because it sounds like it's pop, and it sounds like it's rock, and it it has all those influences in there. So that in a way brings it in more, getting more fans and more people to hear your music.
It does, and yet there's still going to always be that divide. My best friend growing up was always into rock. My best friend was always into rock. And so when we were over at his house, I was listening to AC/DC and, Led Zeppelin and Styx and all those, Foreigner and all of that. That's who he listened to all the time. When he'd come over to my house, it was always Kenny Rogers, Alabama, Lee Greenwood. It was very different. I relate to that old George Jones song. I was country when country wasn't cool.
Right.
But it's interesting. He did not enjoy country at all, and now that he's grown, he's grown up and an adult, same age I am, and everything else. He has got to where he really appreciates the country music. Now he still listens to his rock, he still enjoys that, but he'll come home to unwind. He'll turn on country to unwind, and he says, "Man," there's just and there again, I go back to the stories. He says, "There's something about." And this is his words. He says, "There's something about the relationship of what they're singing about that I identify with everyday life. That he says it just he says it soothes me. It makes me it's easy for me to relate, and so I get comfortable with that." And he says it's easy for me to unwind with country music. He says so I unwind with it, and he says it kind of centers me, and that's from him. That's his words. And I think that's still a part of it. And I think the crossover, the music, the driving sounds, some of that. You've even got Colt Ford started it, I think, with kind of the country rap. You got several artists out there doing that now. Jason Aldean, Colt Ford's still doing it. You got young up and comer Timothy Chance and some other folks that are doing this. And it's I have a hard time calling that country in a lot of ways, and I'm just being honest. Now, please, Jason Aldean, if you're listening, nothing against you or Colt or anybody, but I have a hard time with that. To me, that's not country. But when I start listening to the story that's being told in there, I can see the correlation, and it's just a very interesting phenomenon. But I there again, I go back to that pendulum thing. And music has always been that way. If you go back for country western music in the 30s and 40s, the stuff that my dad really enjoyed, and you listen to that, it's very different than the country music of even the 50s and then the 60s. Then you listen to country music in the 70s, and it's interesting. The pendulum is always moving us in a direction, but it'll swing so far, and then it kind of swings back and centers again, and it stabilizes for a little while, and then it pushes the boundaries again. I think right now we're on that backswing of that pendulum where things are going to stabilize a little bit, and before we make this next big move again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it all does come back, at some point in time, just like fashion does. Something that you wore in the 70s is now big, and then you think to yourself, I should have kept those shoes and I should have kept those clothes because now it's popular again.
I don't know. I've looked through, we were just talking about that the other day. I've looked through some pictures of me in the 70s, and even though I was into country, I had all the disco clothes and it was like, no, I don't ever want to go back to that. No, that I looked absolutely ridiculous. No way. That's funny.
Did you have the John Travolta white suit?
I never had a white suit. I had this. I had these black. I was the opposite. I had the black pants, and I had this blue silk top or the satiny top thing, and the big necklace around my neck, and just it looked ridiculous.
I'd love to see
absolutely
those pictures.
Yeah, well, nope, not going to happen. Sorry, Pam. That's good blackmail material right there, let me tell you.
Yeah. Don't ever invite me to your house then.
Yeah. Well, they're all hidden, believe me. But yeah, it is funny to look through some of those things and say, but yeah, and clothes, music, attitudes in society. There's we're constantly changing. Things are changing around us all the time, and it's an interesting phenomenon.
Definitely. Now, when you write your music, do you take time out of a day like you did today and sit down and write something? Or does it also come to you like out of the clear blue and you just have to sit down and write it?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
There are certain days that I planned to sit down and write. I have some people that I co-write with, and we'll plan a writing session. and so we'll sit down to do that, and it's very planned. There's other times like this morning that I was sitting here, and I've been a buddy of mine has Parkinson's disease. A very good friend of mine has Parkinson's disease, and he wrote a song a while ago. Now he's not a songwriter, but he wrote down some lyrics and he wrote down the song. Didn't have any music to it or anything to it. This morning I was sitting here, and I've been working on this thing for about a couple months now. I've been kind of just coming back and a little bit here and a little bit there. And this morning, whatever reason, it popped in my brain, and I completely scratched out everything that I had done up to this point.
Oh my gosh!
And I started over completely, and I'm nearly done. I've got just a little bit left to do on this thing, and I'll tell you what, it's just it's right. It's come back and it's right now. It wasn't that it was bad before. It just wasn't. It just didn't. I don't know. This was just hitting me, and it's a song about how he feels about having Parkinson's and how people treat him and stuff. And it talks about walking down the lane and people staring at him and steering their kids away from this guy that they assume a lot about. They think they know him because they see him shaking, right, and they think that he's drugs or whatever, and it makes them upset, and it's this type of thing. It's just a kind of a heartfelt thing that he's gone through, and I've come to know him and appreciate him very much, and so helping him with this project. But I've completely done a rewrite on his lyrics. I've taken the theme and the lyrics, taken the line from the lyrics, and then tweak it and then change it all around and making it. But it just hit me this morning. I mean, it was where I've been working on this thing for a couple months, and I thought I had it about done. I scrapped every bit of it this morning. Just said, this is what it's got to be, and I'm loving it. But it was kind of a moment that just boom, it hit me. And I can't describe it other than it just started going in my head, and I was like, boom, 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 and I had this rhythm, had this melody, and it flowed very easily.
And I can relate to that. I write poetry every once in a while, but I'll tell you, 99.9% of my poetry just pops in my head. I mean, the whole thing will just pop in my head, and I'll write it down. If I sit to write something, I'll do the same thing. I'll write just a little bit at a time and go back and write a little bit more. And to me, those poems are never as good as the ones that just pop in my head.
It's just, it's something, there's something inspired about it whenever it happens that way. It just pops into your head, and it flows. And it's like, I really think I'm telling the right story, with this. I think I've captured what, I think I've captured exactly what he's wanting to say and what needs to be said. And so I'm really excited with the way that it's turning out. Read you just a little bit of the lyrics if you want.
Oh, yes, please.
It just says, well, it got me a little problem. I'll try to explain to you. I hope that when I'm done, you'll see me with eyes brand new. Some people, they stare at me as down the lane I go because they see me shaking and I can hardly walk. The chorus says, gets me so angry, gets me so mad, but please don't you judge me. I know I shake a lot. Yeah, it gets me so angry, makes me really mad. People, don't you judge me. It's Parkinson's I've got. When folks begin to laugh at me, it makes me want to shout. They think that they know me and the troubles that I've got. I know I shake a little sometimes. Someday I won't even walk. I even have trouble some days just trying to talk. And then it goes back into the chorus. And just, we're winding this thing up. Yeah, and it to me, it expresses what he has put down. And it's kind of a fun, cool little melody that goes with it as well. And it's just, I think it's going to be a great song. And we're going to be going into the studio in January to record this. And the producer at the studio is actually friends with the head of the National Parkinson's Foundation. Has already told him that has told him about this. And it was like, I was on the phone with Dennis this morning. I says, the funny thing is that Dennis, I says, what I sent you last week, just throw it out the window because it has nothing to do with it. I mean, it's all totally different. It's the same song, but it's totally different now. And he laughed. He says, man, that's fine. He says, I just love where this thing's going. He says, and I trust you I trust you as an artist. I trust you as a musician. What you're doing here. So it's pretty cool. So we don't know. It may be something the Parkinson's Foundation.
I hope so.
Will take on. I think it'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
I think that would be, speaking for all of them, that song, where they can't make their voice heard individually, and this song could speak for them, and I think that would make a world of difference to them.
And that's what the hope is. That's what my friend. That's what his hope was. He just was hoping that it would be able to be used to encourage some others that have Parkinson's to be able to get their voice heard,
right,
in a manner of music, as opposed to any way else. So that's where we're at. So it's kind of fun.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to hear that. I'm looking forward to it, and definitely get it to me when it's done. And I will play it on my show, my Music Monday show.
We'll do that. We will do that.
Thank you. Now, your first album was It's All Country.
Yeah.
How do you choose the songs that make it to an album? Do you go with a theme, or is it just willy-nilly?
I listened to over 300 songs to end up with the ones that I put on the first album. I did not have a manager at the time. I did not have any. It was just me. I wanted to put an album out, and for years I thought I would do a gospel album. And as I started listening to songs, I decided, the country stuff was who I was. And even when I do gospel music, it comes out country. And I thought, this is the avenue that I want to go. And I started listening to all sorts of music. And I found that through the ICOMA, through the Independent Music Association, Independent Country Music Association, headed up by Alan Shepard, I found a writer by the name of Pat Kelly, and I just fell in love with his music. And so 6 of the songs on that album were written or co-written by Pat Kelly. The other 4 I chose covers to put on there. And that was a strategic move that hopefully people, as they were doing an iTunes search or search for music, that my name might pop up with that, so they could find my music easier and find out about Doug Briney easier. But I listened to over 300 songs to put on that album, and when I finally got it all done, when I finally selected those songs and had recorded the album, I contacted Pat and I said, Pat, the song It's All Country, I said, it summarizes this album, and it summarizes what I really want to say. Would it be possible? Can I use this as the title track for the album? And he was honored. He says, yeah, that would be great. So that's how it came to be, but it not necessarily willy-nilly, but it wasn't a planned theme, but it was very much the music that spoke to me and that I felt like would represent me and represent me and represent country music the way that I wanted it done.
Well, I have to say you surely did it the right way, because you won an Independent Country Music Award for that, as well as, being on charts for 8 months, the Roots Music Report chart, and lots of airplay, including internationally. So I have to say congratulations. You did a phenomenal job.
Well, thank you very much. I absolutely love that project. I keep in good contact with Pat Kelly, and we talk quite a bit. And when he gets into Nashville, we usually sit down for a bite to eat and compare notes and talk about each other's current projects and what's going on. And I am very proud of that project. Like I said, that one was pretty much self-produced, and even the photograph on the front, I did everything on that album. So it was it really was just a labor of love. the second album, Super Country Cowboy, I was with Tape Music Group. They did the photography, they did all the layout, they did all, it was just a completely different process, and very proud of that project as well, but in a completely different avenue. Having people, I was with MTS, or I am with MTS Management, and Michael Stover helped me in song selection for that project. Tape Music Group gave me some direction, and it was just a completely different experience putting that project together than the first one.
And how does Super Country Cowboy differ from the first album musically?
Musically, musically there's only one cover on Super Country Cowboy, and that's the old Brooks and Dunn song "Believe." And that's because I have a very deep personal connection to that song. It really reminds me of someone that I grew up, an old man down the street that I grew up from, and it really does tell the story of our relationship, and so I have that connection to it. The other thing is it's more, the album itself has more edge to it, a little bit more radio friendly, I guess, or pop friendly. Pop country, I don't know how you describe it, but a little more pop country sound to it. It's not pop music, it's definitely country. You can hear the very strong traditional roots in there, but yet there's still more of an edge to it than the first album. There again, each song on this one tells you get to know a little bit about Doug Briney in each song. There's a story behind why I chose each song on this album. There's a person in my life that song relates to. There's an event that every single song on there, it gives you a glimpse of who Doug Briney is, very much so.
Well, I guess that people like that one too because it's been climbing the charts, and you were nominated for Best Male Artist with the National Universe Award. So I think you're going to have to start building a big shelf somewhere for all these awards that you're going to be getting.
Well, we've been very blessed with it. The IMEA awards for the video, one video of the year with that was just at the Artist Guild Heritage Music Awards, was just there and was one of the top 5 nominees for Album of the Year. With that one, and I was just blown away by that and very honored. I was up for a couple different categories, but I made for Album of the Year, made the top 5 nominees. And when you consider how many albums were put out over this past year, it was mind-boggling. My wife and I were talking about it, and I'm going to be 100% completely honest. I can't say that I wasn't a little disappointed that I didn't bring home a trophy from there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was absolutely honored to be an official nominee and get in that top 5 was just, to me, was incredible. Some phenomenal albums have been put out this past year, and to have that recognized as one of the top albums this year was really an honor. I'm excited with it. We're excited with the project. It's been very well received. There's songs that I love singing because, in the words of Trace Atkins, they're songs about me. They're songs about my life, and that's a Trace Atkins song, and but it fits. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the stories and the stories behind each song has a story to me that relates to an event or a person in my life very, very closely.
Yeah, and a lot of times I like to ask what song is closest to your heart, but it sounds like pretty much all of them are.
They really are. Each one has its own place. The 2 songs, golly, it's hard. I really enjoy singing Super Country Cowboy. That's a fun song to perform, and that's probably more of an autobiographical sketch of who I am. The song I Get To is absolutely dear to my heart because it's how my wife and I have raised our children. We have never told our children that they have to do something. We always have told them that they get to. And I mean, we really have. That has been something that we have, we don't tell our children that they have to do anything. They get to. And it's a responsibility. It's an honor to be able to do those things. And so that's been our attitude with our kids. And the song Unknown Soldier, being able to honor our men and women who have served. And then, like I said, Believe, the song Believe there, just absolutely, I get lost in that song every single time that I sing it because I'm thinking of Mr. Basham as I sing that song every time and the lessons that I learned from him. So, yeah, there's it's hard to pick a favorite, but those would be my tops.
Well, I have to mention that I absolutely love Unknown Soldier, and I know the fans love it because it's high up there. The last time I looked, it was number 4 on the True Country Singles chart, and I cried watching the video. It just touched my heart. My father was a Marine. My son was a Marine, so songs about our military have a special place in my heart. How did this song come about for you?
Well, when we were looking at songs and selecting songs for this album, I wanted to do something for our military. And thank you so much for your family service. I come from a very long line of military family, and my son currently serves in the Air Force and stationed over in Oman right now.
Well, thank him for me as well.
Yeah, and so I wanted to do something for our military, and we listened to a lot of different songs, and a lot of great songs, but none of them grabbed me. And when I heard the song Unknown Soldier, that one just absolutely grabbed me. I knew that was the one that I wanted to do because to me, there's really a twofold message in that song. The first part is the obvious. It is to the men and women who have given their life and not come home, being able to even be identified. And those are the unknown soldiers that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And so the song is a very obvious tribute to them. But to me, it goes a lot further because I had my dad served during the Korea War. My uncles on my dad's side all served during World War II. My grandfather on my mom's side served during World War II. And these men and women came back from war. They've come back from serving and then assimilated back into society. And we forget about their service. Now, on the surface, or maybe deep down, we still know of their service. I knew of my uncle's service. I knew my grandfather's service. I know of my dad's service, but we tend to forget about it because they just become Uncle Billy, Uncle Bobby, Uncle Donnie, and it's Dad, and so they're kind of unknown there. And so that to me, they are those unknown heroes who come back, and yet their service is so valuable that I think we need to be reminded of these unknown soldiers who have come back and assimilated and been able to just live their lives and still be productive in our society and raise our families. And yet I know that if you were to I know if the need came about, every one of them would stand and take arms again and defend this land with their lives. And so to me, that's the second part of that song. It's these unknown soldiers that come back, and they gladly did what they have done. Was it hard? It was difficult? Absolutely. Some of the things that they saw were terrible, and they would never want to go through that again. But if the call came, I think every one of them would be there on the front line again. I really do.
I believe so as well. Yeah, it's a beautiful tribute to them. It's beautiful. Yeah. I just, my gosh, it just really touched my heart. Now the video, how did that storyboard come about? I mean, it was taped at the Nashville Cemetery.
Yep, I we went over to the Spring Hill National Cemetery here off of Gallatin Road here in Nashville, and we shot the video there. It was kind of interesting. My father-in-law was in town. I took my 15-year-old son over there, and we went over. Excuse me. We went over and set my truck up with some lights and with cameras and sound system and inverters, and we shot the song there from several different angles. Shot it about, I think, 4 or 5 different locations there within the cemetery, and came back and I started editing on the laptop, and so I put everything together and edited and wound it down into that video that you see. Incidentally, the gentleman that was talking about with Parkinson's, at the very end of that video, you will see a soldier salute the tomb of the unknown soldier, and you'll see him turn and march away. That gentleman's name is Howie Groot, and Howie is a gentleman who has Parkinson's, and Howie cannot walk without a cane. And yet, for that video, he threw his cane to the side, and he stood strong, did not shake. He stood strong, did not shake, saluted, and did his left face and marched off without a cane. And Howie can't walk without his cane, and was able to do that because of his service and his love and devotion to the country. He was able to do that, and it was just, to me, when you know that little bit, there's just the dedication is not even the right word. Devotion to our country and devotion to that comes through. He has served and served retired military and just he still has that love, and to me that goes back to what we were talking about. If the call came, Parkinson's or not, shaking or not, Howie would be there, I know, on the front line.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, that just made me want to cry. It brought tears to my eyes. I'm going to have to go back and watch the movie or the video again and see him. I'm going to have to bring tissues with, but I'm going to do it. Now, speaking of Nashville, you went from Alaska to Nashville. What a big difference that's been for you, I'm sure. What has it been like for you walking down the streets where some of the best music came from?
You know, I'm still like a kid in a candy shop. We've been here over a year and a half now. We've been here a year and a half now, and I've played in. I've been blessed. I've played all over in some of the best locations in Nashville and some of the most iconic places in Nashville. And I'm still like a kid in a candy shop. I still just, I'm amazed by it. I love it. You know, when we have someone come into town, you know, I take them down there and this is where, and I show them all the different things. And it's just, it's incredible to me. And to run into people that I've looked up to my entire life and to see people and be close enough to actually talk to them and perform on stage with a few people that come from these families that are just country royalty. Jonathan Frizzell, his dad, his dad sang the song, my brain just blanked, Oklahoma, work 10 hours on a John Deere tractor, just thinking of you all day. That's Jonathan Frizzell's dad that sang that. Of course, Lefty was his uncle. I've sang with Jonathan a number of times. Mark Allen Cash, Johnny Cash's nephew, and I are very good friends, and have had the chance to perform with him a few times. And Georgette Jones have performed with her. Phenomenal gal by the name of Delnora Reed comes from a long line of musicians, and just to meet these folks and to hear some of these stories about people that I looked up to that they grew up with, and it's kind of like me in the military things. They were just my uncles, even though I knew it, and to hear these people talk about their dad or their uncle or it was just Dad and Mom, and it was normal for them to hang out and have. It was normal for Mark Allen Cash to have Larry Gatlin in his backyard and talking to him, and Merle Haggard and Waylon and Willie, and it was normal for him to be around all those people. And to me, it's just like that. I sit there and I soak it up, like, and it's mind-boggling. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
And the weather's got to be better.
The jury is out on that. I don't know that I like the weather here better. The winters are easier. But I tell you what, I miss Alaska summers compared to Tennessee summers by a long way. The heat and humidity here really just it wipes me out. I'm not used to that, and I don't enjoy the heat and the humidity. Now winters are nice. I mean, to me it's funny that they cancel everything with just a threat of snow. Forget heaven forbid a flake actually fall from the sky, but the threat of snow, they'll cancel everything. My boys think it's funny, and they love that. They're like, woohoo, we don't have to go to school today because it might snow. It's like, really? Come on. Their first
Well, listen, I live in Chicago, so I know what snow is all about, and I always laugh at my girlfriend that lives in North Carolina. They get a half inch of snow, and everything is closed down, and I just laugh and laugh. I know exactly what you mean.
My boys' first day, we have 4 children. My 2 youngest boys, their first day of kindergarten, we had snow. We were living in Talkeetna, Alaska. We had snowfall that night. We had 49 inches of snowfall that night.
Wow.
And my boys' first day kindergarten, they had to go out to the bus. It was, 3 or 4 degrees that morning. So we bundled them up in their snowsuits. Well, they couldn't even walk. They couldn't, there was no, they couldn't walk. So what they would do is they'd throw themselves on the snow, and then they'd roll, and then they'd stand up, they'd throw themselves again. And so that's how they made their way to the bus stop that morning. And it's like, 49 inches of snow, and here, you get a threat of snow, and they close everything down. But so it's funny to us. I mean, it really is. It's hilarious. So the jury is still kind of out on the weather thing. It is nice. It is nice. It's very pretty. And aside from the heat and the humidity, it's very nice. The other thing that we were not prepared for, you might find funny, bugs. Oh my gosh, the bugs and spiders here. Now don't get me wrong, Alaska has more mosquitoes than the entire world combined, I think, but you're limited to mosquitoes and a few kind of spiders. The things that are going to get you in Alaska, you are really going to see them coming first.
Right, a bear
you may not be
or
able to do anything. You may not be able to do anything about it, but you're going to know what kills you.
Right.
I've been bitten by 2 brown recluse spiders since I've been here, and
God.
had one part of my leg, a big part on my leg necromanced, and lost a chunk out of my leg because some stupid spider bit me in the middle of the night.
God.
And then I had one bite on my elbow as well. Okay, I've only been here a year and a half, and I've had 2 bites. It's like, come on here. It's just kind of crazy.
Scary.
There's more bugs and spiders and critters here that are deadly and bad for you that they shouldn't exist on God's planet, I don't think.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I am a huge, huge non-fan of spiders. I am terrified of them. And but what we get in our house is, house spiders, and I can't even imagine having anything dangerous like that. I would be terrified. I would never sleep.
Yeah, I think where I got them is I was working here at church, and we were cleaning out the basement and doing some work, and they were down in the storage closets is where we have found them. What happened is right after we moved here, there was massive flooding. We had a massive rainstorm, and it actually flooded. Well, so a lot of these spiders that would normally be outside moved to indoors or were swept indoors because of the flooding. And so a lot of homes are inundated, and the church was inundated with these spiders that normally would not be in. And we've I know they've sprayed the church a couple times now, and we've pretty much killed all of them out. But the work I was doing this summer, I was in deep in these storage closets, and of course I was not being smart. I'm wearing shorts because it's too stinking hot to wear anything other than shorts. And so you get bit and you don't even know it until later on, and your leg is like falling off of your body, and it's like, hey, this isn't cool. What's going on? And there's only certain types of spiders that cause that thing. So when I say it was a brown recluse, it wasn't because I identified the spider by looking at it. I identified it by the bite, and had the doctor take a look at it. And yes, by golly, that's probably a brown recluse bite. That's what it looks like. So
gosh.
And so then the second one that showed up on my elbow. Is the same thing, and I knew the same bite because it was the same exact mark and it was doing the same little thing. So, interesting.
Yeah, well, don't do that again, okay?
I tell you what, I have a firm belief that any spider I see is a dead spider. If they're outdoors and they're building their webs up high and out of my way, that's fine. I'll leave them be. I know they serve a purpose, but when they start building their webs where I got to walk through, like I've walked through. Nothing like walking through out your house and past your tree and having your whole head coated with web, and then looking up and seeing this big giant green orb spider climbing at you. And I know it's a nice, friendly, does a good garden spider, but man, they're big, giant, and ugly, and I don't want them climbing on me. So I take the torch. Yeah, I just take the torch and I burn that whole web and just get rid of them. So. For anybody that's out there that's listening that's offended by that, I am sincerely apologetic if you're offended. But if you have a better way to deal with them, please let me know, and I'll deal with them. But I do not want to walk through their webs and have them crawling on me.
I completely agree with you, completely. Oh, my gosh, I couldn't even imagine. So, well, let's go on to another subject that's not going to make my stomach turn. You also work with Bright Star International, which is a veterans charity, and again, I thank you for that. How did you get involved, and what do you do for them?
Well, it's interesting. Bright Star, what Bright Star International is actually an organization that helps put artists with their causes, and so I have chosen the veterans cause because, again, coming from a long line of military families and really having that firm belief that our veterans deserve so much more than what we give them. And so Bright Star I've partnered with them, and they help bring awareness to veterans causes through my music and that type of thing. I got connected to them simply because my manager put me in contact with them, and we started talking, and they said, yeah, we'd love to support your music. We love what you're talking about as far as the veterans. We think it's a great cause. And that's how I got together with him, was because my manager, Michael Stover.
Michael is wonderful. I love how much he cares about his clients, his artists. He's just amazing, and I can understand how he wins an award for being, Manager of the Year. So I'm glad you're with him. He really cares. He really gets involved.
Yeah.
Now,
he does a great job, and I tease him all the time that I don't think he sleeps. I've I've emailed him at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and he replies back the same, within 5 minutes. And then I've emailed him that same morning at 4 or 5 whenever I've had to get up and do something, and he replies back. He's the only guy I know that keeps the same wacky hours that I do and never sleeps.
Yeah, a lot of people are amazed that I'm answering their emails at 4 o'clock in the morning too. So
yeah.
They're like, don't you ever sleep? Yeah, I do, a little bit here and there. That's how that goes.
Yeah, I can.
Just so much to do. Yeah, I mean, I have 3 radio shows, so that's a lot of work.
It is, and I often sleep whenever I'm sitting down. If things get quiet for a minute, I find myself dozing off, and it's like, oops, got to get going, boop, and you're on the run again. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'd like to mention for our listeners, you can purchase Doug's music from his website, which is doug-briney.com, and that's BRINEY, or on iTunes, Amazon, and CD Baby. You're on tour right now, is that correct?
Right now, I'm in Nashville. I'm in Nashville right now, so I'm not out on the road right now. We will be after the first of the year. I've got performances through the remainder of this year here in Nashville. Is where I'll be through the remainder of this calendar year, and then I'll be January. I'll be starting back out on the road again.
Now, do you go yourself, or do you have an actual band that travels with you?
Yes and yes.
Both.
Yes and yes. It really does depend upon the venue where I'm going and if I can afford to take the band. You know, something a lot of people don't understand is when you take a band out, it doesn't just increase your cost a little bit. You're now having to pay for hotel rooms. You're having to you've got to have transportation for a full band and all the gear and sound gear and you know, drums and amplifiers and everything else. So your cost just getting there has gone way up, just getting there. And then your overnight expenses, you've got to feed your band. You've got to pay your band to be there. And, you know, they're trying to make a living off of that as well. And then if you're not performing that day, I still have to pay the band a per diem because they're still there. And taking away from what they can do. So a lot of times people think, well, I'll just, you know, we'll pay the band a couple $100 to come and play. You know, it's going to cost me $1,000 to get down there and back, and you're going to pay me $200. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. It does cost you a little bit more to have my whole band. Now, if you're just wanting me as a musician, if you want just me to come down and play acoustically, or I can bring tracks down, then we can start talking at the, you know, $200 or $300 range. As long as my expenses are covered and I've got a place to stay, then we can do it because $300 again when you're talking gas mileage, and if you're talking a 500-mile trip one way, it's costly and people don't. A lot of times, people are put off whenever an artist. And this is just some education for folks that might be listening. It's just This is not a gripe. It's just an educational thing that this is how we make our living. And if it costs us more than it makes us, I don't know any other person other than the federal government that can operate that way. I know my bank and my bank does not operate that way. If I don't make my payment and say, well, hey, you're going to pay me for the loan, it doesn't work that way. I can't go in the negative. And the reality is it does cost. And you're not paying for just a performance. You're paying for transportation. You're paying for meals. You're paying for a hotel. You're paying for the hours and hours and hours of practice that have gone into it. You're paying for a heck of a performance. And so, it just, people do need to be educated, I think, when it comes to that. And I'm kind of on that right now because someone was just very offended the other day at a quote that I gave. And they emailed me and said, how can you possibly justify charging us, $1,800 to bring your band down for a 2-hour concert? And so I wrote them back.
And it's unreal that they even have to ask that question. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote them back and I gave them a full detailed explanation of where every penny went. And I showed them by the time I'm done, 2 full days, actually closer to 3 full days of my time away from my family doing this, I will make about $125 by charging you $1,800. But this is where it is. And I haven't heard anything back, haven't heard a response back from them. But, when you break it down, and I showed it to them, I showed them where every penny went. And they're
probably embarrassed. They're probably embarrassed.
And that isn't, and I really don't want that to be that's really not what I want, but I do think that people do need to be educated. I think they do need to be educated that it does cost money to operate as a band, and that this is something I'm trying to do as a living. If you were to, the other thing that I always like to point out, if you were to get someone, if you think $1,800 is expensive, try hiring somebody who is on the Billboard charts right now. Bring in a Jason Aldean, bring in Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers, bring in, who's not Billboard right now, but is still very relevant. Bring in Trace Atkins or bring in someone like that. If you think that I'm expensive at $1,800, well, you're not them. Well, you're right, and that's why you're not paying. That's why you're not paying $120,000.
$25,000, right?
Yeah, you're not paying $125,000 for me to come and do this concert for you.
Yeah.
Plus all the merchandise and everything else that you have to agree to ahead of time, and guaranteed door sales. I'm pretty inexpensive. All I ask is that I'm able to come home with a little bit of money in my pocket and not have to go in the negative. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can't blame you a bit, and I hope there's a lot of people listening to this and that they understand that all at the end. It comes down to that.
And again,
it's
not it is not a gripe. It's just a matter of I
no.
really am finding myself having to educate people on this all the time. My dad, believe me, it's not a gripe against my dad, but my dad couldn't believe that I was asking a certain amount. He heard me give a quote to someone, and he says, "You really expect them to pay that?" I said, "Well, let's break it down, Dad." I went through it for him. He says, I never thought about all that. I never thought about that. I didn't realize that. He said, I would just assume that that's all taken care of. I said, no, it's not. Not unless I spell it out. Okay. Well, that makes a whole lot more sense. I said, well, okay, good. I'm glad that you understand. But it's kind of funny.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm going to play Unknown Soldier and Super Country Cowboy for our listeners, so I'm going to let you go. We're at the top of the hour. But I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really had a lot of fun, and I wish you and your family a blessed holiday and all the best for your future.
Well, thank you so much, Pam, and thank you, really, thank you for having me on. I do try to say this every time, but it does not negate the sincerity behind this. I thank you so much for the opportunity. I thank you for playing my music, and a huge thank you to the fans for listening, because honest to goodness, without you guys, without the DJs playing this, without you guys doing the shows, and without the fans listening, I might as well just be singing in the shower. And it really means a lot to me that you all do that. And I sincerely thank you, and I thank you for the work that you're doing, and I thank you for having me on so that folks maybe get to hear and decide whether they really like me or whether they really don't ever want to hear me again. And I appreciate the opportunity.
You're very, very welcome. It's definitely my pleasure. I had a lot of fun speaking with you. I love your stories. And I think that we could do this all day long, but unfortunately, I can't. And I know you've got things to do, too. So, but have a wonderful day.
You do the same.
You're
and have
very
a
welcome.
Very, very Merry Christmas. All righty. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, the first song up is going to be Super Country Cowboy by doug-briney.
Daddy liked George Jones, Haggard, and Buck Owens. Mama liked the Eagles and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. When I was just a little kid, I became a hybrid, super country, evangelic, rockabilly, psychedelic cowboy. There's a new branch on the family tree, and it all starts right here with me. Shouting, achy, breaky, bust a move on you right now, boy. said it was the devil's tongue. They censored him on Sullivan. Now he's loved by everyone. There's an FM evolution, country music revolution, LP, CD ripped from your MP3, boy. There's a new branch on the family tree. It all starts right here with me. I'm a super country, evangelic, rockabilly, psychedelic cowboy. I'm a twisted, shouting, achy, breaky, bust a move on you right now, boy. Get up out of your seat. There's a new branch on the family tree. It all starts right here with me.
Awesome song, really fun song. And next up is going to be Unknown Soldier. Get your tissues out and be sure to watch his video on YouTube.
I am every father's son, barefoot boy next door, Yapple of Mother Freedom's high. All across this land, I was raised to be a man. I came from old towns everywhere and I heard the battles cry. Some have called me Minuteman, Johnny Reb, and G.I. Joe. Every war I've had a different name, and I made the sacrifice. Yes, I bravely gave my life. My spirits rise to the breeze that makes old glory wave. And don't you know me? I'm the unknown soldier. I proudly served you to keep our country strong. I'm the countless who would die to keep liberty alive. If you remember me, then I'm not really gone. And the unknown soldier marches on. In the fields of Vietnam, on the seas and desert sands, I'm a sentry and I stand my watch alone. My soul will rest in peace, long as America stays free. I'm the heart of every boy that's never coming home. But don't you know me? I'm the unknown soldier. I proudly served you to keep our country strong. I'm the countless who will die, keep liberty alive. If you remember me, then I'm not really gone.
touches my heart every single time I listen to that. Be sure to pick up Doug's music, again, at doug-briney.com, as well as on iTunes, Amazon, and CD Baby. You can follow him on Twitter at doug-briney, and like his Facebook page, too. It's facebook.com/dbsongs. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Thanks again to Doug and to Michael for the opportunity. And I'll be back again on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time with my Music Monday show. If you are an indie out there listening or you know of one, I'm looking for Christmas songs for the last show of the year, which will be on, December 15th will be my last music show of this year, because then I'm going to take time off for the holiday. I might push it to December 17th, but I haven't decided yet, but definitely December 15th. So have them contact me, take2radio2@gmail.com. That's using the number 2. Have them send in their Christmas songs, holiday songs, whatever they have, and I'll play it on that particular show. It might go more than an hour since it's going to be the last show of the year. So send in whatever you have, and I'll definitely get it on air. And thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Doug was a lot of fun to speak with, and we'll talk again next week. Bye-bye. God bless you.
Get connected with Take Two Radio Music on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio Music, or for email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit take2radiomusic.com.